afternoon and welcome to another episode of Bold Business. I'm David Grasso from GenFKD, a nonprofit dedicated to helping millennials understand money and entrepreneurship. And joining us today is a friend of Bold, Sandra Garcia Lowery. How you doing?
Hello, David. It's great to be back. A little different being on this side of the table, but definitely
usually
excited for
you're
a good
off
show.
camera, but you're a part of the party here.
Yep, off camera.
So welcome to the public-facing part of the company.
Thank you. This should be fun.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a tradition here at Bold Business. We kick off the show with a few headlines, so let's get started. First, we want to welcome our very special guest. She's the one who made all of this happen. She's the founder and CEO of Bold TV, Carrie Sheffield. Good afternoon, Carrie. This used to be a morning show, so I say...
Don't do fake news, David. And also, Sandra has been on Bold Life before in front of the camera.
In the afternoon.
Now she's on Bold Business for the first time.
So we have three shows. Carrie, you can do the pitch. You pitch better than I do as our founder and CEO.
Well, the big pitch today is that it's our birthday!
Yay!
Happy birthday, Bold! We are now 3 years old, and we want to wish a happy birthday to everyone that made this possible, especially Carrie. And I guess I have to thank myself because I was one of the originals 3 years ago. Doesn't time fly, Carrie?
Oh my gosh, it was so long and yet yes, so short. So we have some wild tales. It's just hashtag startup life can be insane, and it's evolved in ways that I am so happy. And I feel like year 4 is really going to be our year. We're really going to grow into it. I think we spent the first 3 years really developing the product and really understanding our brand. Who do we want in the conversation? Who are we targeting? And year 4, we're going to accelerate.
You know, it's not easy, and that's what the whole premise of the show is about, is that entrepreneurial solutions are not easy. And, you know, they are the driver of our economy. They do create jobs. They are pretty much our whole economic future. But the people who are doing it, such as yourself, Carrie, it's not always very glamorous.
It is, and that's what I said when we had the Bumble ad, the Bumble campaign for Most Inspiring New Yorkers. They put the ad campaign with me and Bold TV, the promo in the subway, and it was mucky. There was mud and dirt and crime all over the
Our
subway.
subway's pretty dirty.
And I was like, this is the perfect analogy for startup life, because there are the moments where you have the glamour, the excitement, the spotlight, but there's a lot. It's like the iceberg. It's like the tip of the iceberg is what people see, and what's below 80 to 90% of the iceberg, that's the hard work, it's the grind, it's the hustle. And we have so many people off camera behind the scenes here at Bold that make Bold possible. And, you know, it's just amazing what you can do when you're all working toward the same vision. Our goal is to build as Martin Luther King Jr. calls, a beloved community. That's what we're here to do. And that's what we do every week.
She's a great ambassador. And speaking of one of the problems we encountered, Carrie went over to Entrepreneur Magazine's Problem Solvers podcast. She talked to our friend Jason Pfeiffer. He's the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. And they sat down and they talked about a potential trademark dispute that, funny enough, we won in 2017 against the massive news and entertainment firms MGM and Tegna. No big deal, Carrie, right?
Well, funny. Yeah, so the podcast just aired this week, and so that was big news for us to be spotlighted in such a big place. Entrepreneur Magazine is the creme de la creme of news coverage for startups, and so it was a big honor to be interviewed. I will say, though, that the interview, and I hope you download the podcast from them and listen to it, you know, I talk about, again, the nitty-gritty of some mistakes I made through this conflict that we had because I had not done the proper paperwork, and so I confessed this, you know, in front of the airwaves on Entrepreneur Magazine, but we did come out on top because we had the voice, we had the, as they call it, trademark, common law trademark. So these massive firms, they're worth 20 billion market cap combined, had tried to launch a similar initiative, streaming, they want to call it broadcasting online live daily. Bold. And but it was more than a year after we had already started. You know, after filing the the business license in Delaware, it was about almost a year and a half after us. And so we wrote a cease and desist letter, worked with different lawyers, including with LegalZoom.
I saw that cease and desist letter. I've been a part of this, Carrie.
And we won. So it was one of those David versus Goliath stories. And we hear a lot of those stories here on Bold Business. And they're inspiring. And just to know that the small guy can win sometimes.
Right, yeah. And that's some of the behind-the-scene things that you go through as a small business. So kudos for the win.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. As we all know, David always wins. But anyway, this past Tuesday was Giving Tuesday, and our bold team went to an event for Wendy Williams Hunter Foundation that raised money to help solve drug addiction. Let's watch a clip.
Talk show queen Wendy Williams Hunter and her foundation hosted a party with a purpose here at Dillon's Candy Bar for Giving Tuesday.
My husband, my son, and I got together and we said, let's make a foundation. We've got so much, let's give back.
20 million plus people, because of groups like the Hunter Foundation, see a whole new world for themselves.
This brings smiles to people's faces, but it also brings a lot of awareness to what Wendy's doing. So I think it's a really nice marriage they've got going.
I met Wendy and Kevin about 6 months ago and discussed their foundation with them. I saw how passionate they were. And I think it's every company's civic duty to get involved with giving.
Go to www.snackpop.com. All of the proceeds that are purchased on the website will go directly to the Hunter Foundation to help us share the messaging about drug addiction.
Even if you can only give back a little, it makes a big difference.
This time of year, it feels so good to give. It really does.
It is a work of labor for the purpose of finding a cure for K2 opioids and whatever the mess people are on. Because it ain't right out here in these streets. How you giving?
Oh my God, that was like the red carpet. And Snack Pop is a past guest. Do you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Very
of course.
awesome.
We know it takes a village.
Yes, it sure does.
And they've all been through these desks, haven't they, Carrie?
They have. Yeah. Well, and in fact, I met Wendy Williams a couple years ago and first heard about the Hunter Foundation at that time before Bold even started. So it's all full circle. And I love this story because we just featured the same clip on our Bold News show because there's the political angle of the opioids. And it's such a deep crisis that our country's facing. But there's here for the business show, the corporate responsibility and the corporate partnership here with Snack Pop. So it's all synergy.
Right. And it's so good to see our celebrity profiles doing really good for the community. So go ahead, Wendy, her husband, and her son. So our final headline is about Bold's very own David Grasso.
That's me.
Yes. David and newlywed husband Hugo Manuel Camarena was featured in the New York Times wedding section. Okay, society pages. So let's take a look at some of David's wedding photos, why don't we? Beautiful.
So, Carrie was there.
Yes, Carrie.
So tell us, Carrie, an outside perspective of what you thought of it all.
Well, it was so diverse. You brought in Christian elements and Jewish elements and Middle Eastern Persian elements. And so it was very global.
Well, we had to have mariachis.
Yes.
Come on.
I love the mariachi.
Mexican, so.
Did you make them wear all white? Oh, everyone wore white.
Oh, everyone wore white.
It's a Cuban tradition, right?
Well, it's everyone from the Caribbean would know that has a lot to do with our African heritage and the African religions. They dress in all white. So in Brazil, for instance, for New Year's, they wear all white and go into the ocean. So it has a lot to do with our African cultural presence. But I did it for the pictures.
And the pictures look amazing.
And those are both of our parents.
Look at that.
We did sunflowers. I really like summer flowers. I have no idea how the heck our wedding planner got that in November, but it's Florida, so anything's possible. We did pineapples. Pineapples are native to Mexico and Cuba. They are not from Hawaii, contrary to popular belief. And we got married in my hometown and, in Celebration, Florida. If you don't know what that is, that's the Disney town. And we had such a lovely time.
Amazing.
And I saw Carrie, from the altar, I saw Carrie pulling out a few tissues.
I was, yes. You caught me.
Where's the honeymoon? I want to know where's the honeymoon.
It was very touching.
So we already took our mini moon. We went to Key West, Florida. We only have one picture that a friend took of us because we were so tired of pictures. But we will eventually be going to Kauai and Maui next winter.
Nice.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who contributed to the Honey Fund. We are already enjoying it. And Carrie, thank you always so much for stopping by. It's always a pleasure to see you, but you're on our next segment.
That's right.
Okay, so anyway, let's get to our next guest. Joining us on Skype is Jordan Harmon. He's the co-founder and vice president of marketing at Cove. Cove specializes in protection home security systems. Are you there, Jordan? How you doing?
Doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like
Thanks for having me.
Well, it looks like you have quite the setup over there. So tell us, how can Cove help us stay safe during the holidays?
That's a great question. Cove's a professionally monitored DIY home security system that's going to allow people to have all the benefits of a professional-grade home security system. without any of the drawbacks of DIY. So you're getting no contracts, super low monthly rates, but you get all the perks of having a really nice professional grade home security system.
Cool. Let's watch a clip with a little bit more of the visuals of how your stuff looks. Fascinating, Jordan. So how'd you come up with this idea?
So I've been in the industry for a long time, and being in the industry, I started seeing a lot of flaws. Basically, some of the bigger ones were all these big alarm companies. They're doing their best to provide good security, but then they're locking people into 5-year contracts, charging them 40 to 50, 60 bucks a month, and they're not really meeting consumers' needs. And I realized that only 1 in every 4 people have a home security system in their home. And considering crime and different things, I was like, this really doesn't make a lot of sense. And so when I started asking around and figuring out what the reason for that was, we started realizing there's a need that needs to be fulfilled here. And as an entrepreneur, I love disrupting things, so we jumped into it.
Awesome. Jordan, so I know you're from Utah originally. I'm from Utah as well, so go Utah. Nice to see fellow Ute out there.
Represent.
Yeah, that's right. So I know that you have some data looking at the holidays in particular. So I want to, as a news channel, tell us more about that as it relates to the holidays being dangerous in terms of break-ins.
Yeah, so we've noticed that during the holidays, for some reason or another, there does seem to be spikes in crime. I mean, we've heard some people say as high as 30%. But that being said, there really never is a convenient time to get protection for your home and family, but there is a time that you can save a lot of money. And with Cove, during the holidays, we're offering tons of offers so that people can protect their homes during that time period when they're traveling or away or with family, so they don't have to really worry about the home security of their home. They can just focus on family, what matters most. And that's what we're trying to do.
Great. Well, and as I understand, we have a deal also for our Bold viewers, correct? Bold holiday?
Yes, that is correct. So anybody that from all the Bold viewers, we had a Black Friday deal that was 50% off plus a free indoor camera. And we're extending that to all Bold viewers. So Bold Holiday, if you go into the checkout, you can type that in and it'll automatically apply that offer so that you guys can have that awesome deal.
Oh, we got a coupon code.
We sure do.
Awesome.
Thanks. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, so Jordan, and also I know that part of why you started your company is that there was a personal story where you were alarmed about something. Tell us more about that personal story, because I know as a founder myself, part of why I founded Bold is I had a personal experience that really motivated me. So what was your personal experience?
Yeah, so that's what gets us passionate about what we do. So my wife and I, we were just newly married. We actually lived in an apartment, so we figured we'd probably be fine. It was gated. There was no problems. And one of our neighbors actually had a break-in and was assaulted. And in that moment, even though I'd already been in the alarm industry, that's when it hit me kind of personally, where my wife was like, as I was leaving the home, she locked the door behind me. And I was like, that's not a way to live. And so when we started this, we wanted to make sure that every home, apartment, condo, and place can have home protection so they don't have to live that way or worry.
It's so great to see disruption in all these industries because seriously, alarms is something, it's the scammiest thing on earth, most alarm companies. Like they come into your home, you need it, it's something you need. It's so great that you're offering a product that provides essentially the same service without all the gimmicks.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
So I'm excited to take advantage of this Bold holiday deal myself and potentially give to a few friends who live out here in the city. So thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Anyway, next up we have Michelle Wong. She's the founder and president and organizer of We Rise to Inspire. Michelle will be here to discuss events dedicated to the business and entrepreneurial success of all women. Is Michelle coming out? Michelle coming out? Oh, there comes Michelle. You know, the thing about this is sometimes we don't have commercial breaks, so you get to watch how the sausage is made. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello,
Michelle. Have a seat.
I'm wearing white.
No, you're fine. I'm wearing white, too.
Yes, I had a down.
Oh,
No,
yes.
absolutely. Welcome. Have a seat.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to hear more about We Rise to Inspire.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
Yes.
Well, I started We Rise to Inspire about a year ago. And basically the concept of that was to advocate more for women because women are now on the rise in regards to professional careers and business owners and entrepreneurs. So I wanted to do something where we build a community for these women. More so because of the conversations that I've had with women overall. There are some that have reservations, some are skeptical, or they're just too, kind of scared to get started into something. So I wanted to create a platform for that where they have a community, basically mentorship, availability where they can connect with people that are already in the business, in the industry that they're looking to get into. So this is how all of that got started.
Amazing. And you have an event coming up.
Yes, I have an event coming up March 28th and 29th of 2019.
Now, is this the first annual or is this second annual?
Second annual.
Right. Okay.
The first one was this past March. It was an empowerment event. We had about 135 people come out in Chelsea, and basically everybody connected. And I was so amazed by the fact that after I left the event, I started to see people on social media just basically connected. And I was like, wow.
Of course, and that's what you wanted to get out of the event.
Exactly. So now I'm taking it a step further by doing a 2-day business summit. So now they're getting more resources, more hands-on, more in-depth information from the experts in the field.
Right.
So, Michelle, you have quite a resume here. Former coast-to-coast marketing TV show, contributing writers for Vanilla Magazine, talk show host for Work Your Money podcast TV show, CEO and co-founder of the WYM Group, and former real estate agent. You're like a cat with 9 lives. You've done a lot with that career of yours.
Yes, I'm a Jill of all trades. Basically, I'm in the real estate industry. I'm still an agent, and apart from that, that's always a great
hustle
for
anyone.
Yes.
Whether it's a side hustle or a main hustle, it's a great industry.
Absolutely, and you'll be surprised who is interested in that. I've seen from celebrities to just anyone interested in real estate.
I'm perennially interested in real estate. That's that's my idea of success has a lot to do with owning property.
Absolutely.
And that's very much at the core of the American dream. I think that's what drove people from around the world to come here to own a little slice of this big continent we call home.
Absolutely. And I think that New York City in particular is a very iconic place where most people that come here, they tend to see all of the architecture, all of the tall buildings, and that's an association with New York City. So people that come from all over, they come here, and they that's the American dream. They want to come here to see how they can make it.
So for your upcoming March event, are we targeting individuals in the real estate industry, or is it across industries?
Across industries. I have people from corporate business to the entertainment industry. So there's industries in between. So we're welcoming everyone. And just because this is a women's event, men are coming out as well. This past March, we had men that came out to speak, and they also came in attendance. So we're also welcoming them back for the coming year. So, and we have also speakers as well for this summit as well.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great event.
Yes.
Now, these 2 days, what are you most excited about? What's going to be the most different from last year?
Okay, so basically the extra component is the fact that we have a workshop. So the second day we have a workshop. We have the experts in their field basically talking about in detail the fundamentals to get started into a business or expanding your business and taking it to the next level. So you're looking at funding, financing, the legal component, branding yourself. So we have basically everything covered for those individuals.
Yes. Awesome. And I also see you have a session on getting minority, let me make sure I say it correctly, minority and women-owned business enterprises certified.
Exactly.
That's a big deal,
that
especially
is
if
a
you want to
huge
be a
deal.
vendor for federal contracts.
Yes.
It sure is.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's really, really funny that when I have these conversations with people that are veterans that have businesses for a very long time, they're very surprised that there is that opportunity for them. So now I'm speaking about that, and they're like, wow, you know, this is something that I really need to get into. And I encourage it because this is an opportunity within itself. And if you get this opportunity, you don't know when. Right. That might not be here. It can be a couple of years from now that availability is no longer. So take it now while you have the chance.
Yes. So thank you for creating this space for women business owners. I'm so excited for your March event.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So moving along to our next segment, we're excited to welcome Karen Alston. She's the owner of Alston Marketing Group. Karen's here to discuss entrepreneurial values and tips for young business professionals like ourselves.
I'm so excited to hear all these tips.
How you doing, Karen?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hello.
Good.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, indeed. Yes. We could all use a little Friday in our lives.
Yes. Use a little Friday.
I like to say.
Friday. Yes.
That is a thing.
We love Fridays.
My calorie intake's about to go up, and my sleep content is about to go up as well.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So
Sounds like
I'm a bold version. It's my first time, but I will be back.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to be here. I love it.
So, for all those young entrepreneurs out there in the cyber world, what tips do you have for them?
So for young entrepreneurs, first of all, I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years and I own two businesses. So for young entrepreneurs who ask me all the time for advice and feedback, I tell them 4 key things. Number 1, that is to be true to who you are. Know your values, because where business gets challenging is in the gray area. It's not the black or the white, it's the gray. So you have to know your values. Number 2, partner with bigger brands and bigger firms.
Of course.
Do not be afraid. Don't look at IBM as competition or Target as competition.
Yes.
Think of ways to collaborate with them and ways to mirror up with them and showcase what you're doing to them. Number 3, not only be afraid of your competitors, but know your differentiation between what you do really well and what your competitors do really well. And refer business. I've been referring business to my competitors for 18 years, and they refer business back to me. And that's very, very important.
It's an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem. And number 4, for my young entrepreneurs out there, it is so important to give back. Have a philanthropic arm of your business. Even when you have no money, if your net income is $100, find a way to do something nice for somebody.
Well, isn't it not just money? There's time.
There's time.
There's expertise.
There's expertise. I have a dear friend, Carla Ballard, who owns an app called Ying, which is a time banking app where you can give back through your time. If you're good at something, especially now, here we are at the holidays. Call someone up and say, what can I do for you? What do you
That's a
need?
great Christmas present.
It is.
Yes. How
It's
can
a
I help you grow your
huge
business?
I'd rather get someone's time than money, honestly.
So would I.
Yeah.
So I love talking to entrepreneurs. I mentor. I have too many mentees. I need to stop having the amount of mentees I have. But
that means you're a good person.
Thank you.
Well, she has 18 years of entrepreneurship experience. I think
sure
I want to
you
be your
could
mentee
teach
also.
Yeah. You can put her on your waiting list.
I know. So can you share with us, what is the number one thing you see entrepreneurs or young entrepreneurs struggling with, and what do you tell them?
So I think they struggle with, so first of all, and we all know millennials pay attention to how many hits, how many likes, how many people. Don't look at the social media. Focus on your engagement and what you're actually doing, how you're selling. You know, you can have 400 followers, and if you're selling to half of that, that's better than somebody with 100,000 followers that can't get 10 people to sign up and do anything.
That is excellent advice, by the way.
And I see it, and I have so many young people who say to me, I only have 30,000 followers. And I'm like, well, how are you monetizing those 30,000 followers? And I think there's a course and offering a masterclass on how to monetize who follows you, whether you have 400 or 400,000, because so many people don't know how to do that. And then the other thing is focus on the quality of whatever it is you're producing. I see a lot of people spend time on things that aren't quality.
Right.
focus on the quality. I don't need you to post 10 times a day. One good post is worth more than 10 posts of just foolishness.
Karen, you're all your advice points in the same direction. Live in the real world.
In the real world.
Never mind this world. What is your tangible product you're offering?
Yes.
Is it good quality?
Is it good quality, yes.
And how you're spending
your time.
Right.
And even if you're young and you don't have a big brand reputation, be honest about where you are. I have no problem taking a chance on people, and people actually they're happy to do that, to help someone get started.
Yes,
but be
people love
honest and say,
vulnerability.
hey, yes, be vulnerable and showcase where you are and what you're doing, and not, hey, I'm the best. I'm there. You don't need anyone else. Be honest and say you're starting out.
So, Karen, really impressive list of clients here, and a lot of government clients, which are very stable.
Yes.
It's hard to get in the door, but then once you're in, is it a little easier, or is it never easy?
It's very easy once you're in. But the key, now, first of all, I live in Washington, D.C., which is the home of government. And I tell everyone, government is based on relationships. It has a longer window to get a client, usually about 2 years.
Oh, my God.
Right. But in that 2-year span, you're building relationships. You're talking to people. You're engaging with people. So when that first call comes, once you're in the system, they keep calling. So now, to the point, most of my contracts I win, I already know I'm winning them before it ever hits the street, because you have relationships and you build and cultivate these relationships over 5, 10, 20, 50 years.
And I mean, here you have Baltimore County, Prince George's County, which is in Maryland, D.C. Public Schools, Capital Area Food Bank, the DuPont Hotel.
Yes.
I mean, you're diversified. There's some private clients in there.
Some private clients, yeah. So mostly government, but some private. I haven't gone into corporate yet. I have a lot of large nonprofits that I've
Which is similar to government. It's a longer sales cycle.
Longer sales cycle, but these clients come back year after year after year. I've been working with D.C. Public Schools for the past decade, D.C. government for the past 15 years. So, I see my work everywhere. I walk around the city and I see my campaigns. If you come to Washington and you see the red bikes for Capital Bike Share, that's me. I did that. So I'm really proud.
How does it feel? You're creating the world around us. What type of satisfaction does that provide you?
It's a little eerie, and you have moments, when you're just out grocery shopping and you see something you did, and it's like, wow, that's
okay. Our founder saw herself on posters all over the city. So
that Bumble campaign, yes, she did, and I was really proud of her and shared it because I thought it was awesome.
Yes,
but yeah, it's a great feeling.
I'm so curious. You're so accomplished.
Thank you.
What is next? Like, what would you want to do next?
Oh, next. Good question.
I'm curious.
So next for me is sharing more about what I have learned. So doing more things like this, speaking more, which I'm starting to do.
Thought leadership opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of thought leadership around who I am, what I've accomplished, and going out in the world and sharing my story, which is what I've been doing. And I'm really happy to be here.
Well, thank you for mentoring so many people, especially people in our age group. We need it.
Yes,
I look forward to seeing you share your story far and wide.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Next, we're happy to welcome Alyse. How do I pronounce it? Alyse? Alyse. Alyse Kalish, editor at the Muse. Alyse is here to help us prep for the new year by sharing her simple strategy to set long-term career goals.
Oh,
Welcome.
Those are the goals that bedevil us, Alyse.
Yes,
exactly.
So what is the secret to setting simple strategies? Please tell us.
Yeah, I think it sounds more, daunting than it is. It's really just about making your goals tangible. So in this article, I talk a little bit about both how to outline what those goals are and then how to make steps to achieve them. And so it's really just about...
Is that you in the picture? It looks like you in the picture. I'm like, did she put her own picture in her article?
I'm also a stock photo model. I'm very multiversal.
Is that your side hustle?
Yeah, exactly. A simple goal.
Is that part of your long-term strategy?
Exactly,
royalties from stock photos.
One of the simple strategies.
Yeah. So I sort of actually wrote this article based on my own experience where my boss and I were sort of working on where I saw myself going in my career. And so she helped me create this document, sort of outline the skills I wanted to build and like the possible jobs I might be interested in 5 years, 10 years down the road. And then I was doing it and I realized I should share this with our readers. This could be really helpful for anyone, depending on where you want to go. And so I think
that strategy just sort of spurred the article itself.
Alyse, for younger people like ourselves, the game has changed. You job hop a lot. You know, my grandfather worked for the same company most of his working life.
Totally.
And retired with a pension. Does that play into how you wrote your article, how we think about our careers over the long term?
Absolutely. I think, job hopping gets a bad rep, but I also think it feels like the kind of thing that everyone has to do nowadays. And one thing I personally found when doing this myself was that you can actually achieve a lot of your career goals in the same job. Obviously, you should leave a job that makes you unhappy or is no longer fulfilling your career goals. But by sort of outlining where you see yourself going, you can actually capitalize on the job that you have now and sort of see yourself growing within the company that you're in now. And I think that sounds a lot easier for people too. Going through the job search is really stressful. Nobody wants to do it.
It's horrific. It's not made for humans.
It's horrible. It's not.
It's a full-time job.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And so I think if we can tell people, you don't have to completely change your career to be happier, to be more successful, to build these skills. If you sort of outline the right goals, you can actually, build those skills within the current space that you're in.
Yes. So in terms of goals, how many goals and long-term goals do you think people should be working towards or against at a single time?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question because, everyone sort of functions differently. And, some people are high achievers and they're willing to go after multiple goals. The key is really making them realistic, right? Like you can say, I want to be happy in my career, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean for you?
Doesn't that change over time too?
Absolutely. And I think that's the other thing too is, being okay with change. When you set out these goals, don't be like, I'm going to do these and I can't change my mind. This is exactly where I'm going. Be okay with going after a goal and realizing halfway that it's not what you thought it was going to be, or it's not making you happy in that way that you thought it would. So, being willing to be flexible and give yourself a little bit of slack for going after these goals.
So let's talk about the Muse. In this environment with low unemployment, it's kind of getting harder to find talent. It's funny. When I started my career, it was like, oh, I pray they'll give me a job. And now it's like, well, pay hasn't gone up a lot. Most people I know have been able to get a job.
Yeah.
So how does that play into, trying to find that right talent? At the right moment.
Absolutely. So I think the Muse's mission is to find fit from both sides of the job search. So helping companies find talent that is the right fit for them so they can retain great employees, right? I mean, companies don't want to spend money on continuing to hire and retrain.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive to have turnover, to deal with onboarding. So helping companies find employees that are going to stay there for the long term. And then the other side, helping people figure out, what jobs will make them happy, where they see themselves going. Being able to stay in a job for a while and be happy with that. Again, sort of playing into job hopping. Job hopping is a normal part of the process, but if we can make it a little less common, make people actually feel happy in where they are right now, that would be great as well. So we sort of tackle it from two different sides, and part of the Muse's mission is, both to help employees define what their goals are, what their career passions are, and then also to help companies figure out, what makes my company unique and special, what makes people want to work here. And that's what we're sort of tackling. Well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's a two-sided relationship for sure.
Absolutely.
And companies, unfortunately, and this has started to change in recent years, they really took advantage of the terrible job market.
Oh, yeah.
So what you're seeing a lot now is the blowback from that. People are like, okay, I needed this job 2 years ago, but now, screw you, I'm going to go somewhere else. Right? Is that the honest point?
Yes, absolutely.
Alyse, how old are you?
I am 25.
25.
Oh my gosh.
And that's great. No,
So
this whole
impressive.
show is about you are my target audience here. And what do you think this job, because you're kind of looking at things from a macro view, has helped you plan your own career? Because it's funny, you help other people plan their career, but what's in store for Alyse?
It's a great question. It's $1 million question. I think one thing that this has taught me is nobody knows what they're doing, and everyone's figuring it out. Everyone's changing their mind.
Yay, the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think people think when I work at a career website that I know exactly what I'm doing in my own career. I have all the answers. I can tell them how to get a job.
Tell me what I'm going to do too, Alyse. Sandra wants to know too.
Me too. Let's sign up.
Right. And
hours with Alyse.
Obviously. Yeah. And as much as I can give the best advice I can, the reality of it is, job searching takes work. Having a successful career takes work. But it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be stressful, or, you know, it doesn't have to be something that you dread doing every day. You should enjoy your career, and that enjoyment changes over time, and that's okay too. So I think that's the one thing I've learned is, you know, again, giving myself a little bit of credit for I've gotten this far. I'm happy where I am, and I have so much left to do in my career.
You have so much left to do. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alyse.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our next guest is Dan Bova. He's the editorial director for a little website named entrepreneur.com. You might have heard of it, just no big deal. So, Dan, quite a long resume here. You might win the largest resume of the day here.
And that might be a count for the color of my hair.
So, editorial director for Entrepreneur Magazine, columnist for Gannett newspapers, so USA Today, etc., and former producer for the Alec Baldwin Show.
Yeah, so that's actually, so Alec Baldwin Show is coming back in a couple of weeks, actually.
I saw that,
so
yeah.
people can check that out on Saturdays. So I was lucky enough to work on that. The executive producer, Mr. Jason Schrift, who's the man, brought me in to work on that. So that was pretty awesome.
And you were on Jimmy Kimmel, Maxim Magazine, a magazine I read a lot in my youth, of course, editor-in-chief for Scout. But now we're here to talk about advice for entrepreneurs. Is freelancing better? Is freelancing worse? Does it make for awkward conversation in bars when people ask you what you do?
Right. Well, it's kind of funny. So entrepreneurship, right? So, you know, not even that long ago, most people barely knew how to pronounce it. I still have trouble spelling it, if I'm going to be totally honest.
Yes.
But
that's what spell check's for.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's become this real lifestyle that people are kind of locking into. And if you say I'm an entrepreneur, like, more and more people understand what that means.
Right.
You know, it's so varied. One of the coolest things about my job is I get to talk to so many different entrepreneurs at all different stages. You know, they're serial entrepreneurs. This is the 10th business they've started. This is their first time. This is their side hustle, etc. And it really depends on the person, you know, what's good for you, you know, whether I have a full-time job somewhere and I'm doing this thing on the side until it really takes off, and then I'll go do that. Some people jump right in. So it's your passion, your tolerance for risk, your ability to say, hey, I might not have a paycheck at this end of this month. If
tolerance for risk with the risk underlined.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very individualized.
I'm curious. So coming from an expert, I think people use the word freelancer and consultant kind of to mean the same thing. Is there a real difference?
I mean, you know, so consultants will...
Sounds like they need to be paid more than free.
Yeah. They know how to sell themselves.
Right.
But, you know, there'll be a consulting firm, so you work full-time for that consulting firm.
Okay.
So, it can vary so greatly.
Right, because I've heard people call themselves freelance consultants. I'm like, oh my God, what are
freelance consultants?
Right,
man, that gets complicated.
I consult with freelancers. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. Okay.
So, what have you learned from this whole career in media? Because really, the common thread here is media.
Yeah,
through different mediums.
Right. So, I mean, that's how I started off. That's where I've kind of intended to be. I actually went to film school. So I think what I've learned most off is that, you know, you have this sort of nugget of something that you love inside you, but you don't really know where it's going to take you. Okay, so when I started off, I was like, I'm going to be Steven Spielberg. Then, then I was like, I want to be a writer for David Letterman. That was like my big dream.
Well, you ended up on Jimmy Kimmel Live, so
right.
It looks like that dream came true.
So you do, but you find yourself in all different kinds of places.
But it's not exactly what you imagined.
Yeah, and you find out what you really are. Wow, I'm really good at that part of it, and wow, I really hate that part of it. And you sort of just navigate those waters. So the ultimate thing that I would say in terms of just trusting what. Don't try to convince yourself that you want to do something. You know, you might have in your head, I always want it to be this, and then you start to do that, and you might realize that you kind of hate it. So just just believe yourself that you hate it. Don't try to convince yourself that this is what you really want to do because you thought you wanted to do it.
Making a force fit.
Exactly, exactly.
So, okay, coming from you, what is someone who's been very successful at creating their own lane? What is the one tip that you would give to someone who's trying to create a path of their own as well?
Oh my God,
I'm listening.
Let me ask somebody else that. I think it really comes down to just following and trusting that, as I said, if you like something and you feel passionate about it, and I hate saying that because it kind of like, I don't know, it gets a little rote. People say, oh, passion, passion, passion. But what do you actually like doing? And someone actually once told me, when you're not at work, what do you do for fun? So for me, I was always working on a script or writing a short story or something like that. So it was, if I could get paid to do those things,
monetize those things you love.
Exactly. So that, I think that's the number one thing.
Dan, I don't think the gray hair is a bad thing, especially as a consultant. I think it's associated with a 20% hike in your rates, especially young face. Gray hair tends to work
I actually
really well.
have a thick head of black hair, but I dye it gray.
Okay.
So that
we won't tell anyone.
Yeah.
This is intentional.
It's the Anderson Cooper effect, right?
Exactly.
He was actually very young when they put him in that anchor chair, but people were like, "Oh, well,
we could trust him."
Somewhat seasoned, right?
My kids don't so much see the wisdom in me, but maybe other people do.
Yes,
so
you got something in common with Santa Claus, beardless.
Okay, before we wrap up, I have one last question for you. So entrepreneurs have very different ways of starting their days and getting through the day. What kind of entrepreneur are you? What does your day look like?
My day, so I have two kids, a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah. So a lot of my morning is spent screaming at people that we're all going to be late and we're all going to die and you've got to get out of bed. Blah, blah. Right. So I actually lately have tried to wake up 20 minutes before I have to, just so I could have that moment of 20 minutes drinking coffee time. And staring into space and not thinking about anything. I'm not a morning person, is what I'm putting out there in the universe, but we all have to be, unfortunately. So.
Ooh, rough advice for the non-morning people of the world.
I am not a morning person either. Yes.
I wish I could tell you something. I wish I could give you some kind of magic.
That's great advice. So you give yourself a 20-minute buffer before you have to deal with the world.
Yeah, but sometimes you fall asleep during that buffer, and then it just all goes haywire. So, I don't know.
Yes.
Don't listen to me. That's my advice.
I still think it's great advice. 20-minute buffer.
All right.
20 minutes is in.
Yes.
I'm going to write a book called that, The 20-Minute Buffer.
I will be a co-writer, co-whatever it is called.
10% royalty for Sandra.
Trademark right now.
All right, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us.
This was great.
So our next segment is our Bookster segment. If you haven't heard, Bookster is a website for book lovers and much more. We are happy to welcome our next guest, Clint Arthur, celebrity entrepreneur and owner of his own titled TV, Clint Arthur TV. He's going to talk about his book. Get this, it's called Speaking Game, Seven-Figure Speaker Secrets Revealed. Make more money, have more fun, conquer your fear of public speaking, become the confident and charismatic person you've always wanted to be. I made it through the description.
Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Congratulations.
So how you doing?
I want to know all of the secrets. Do we have enough time?
Yeah.
7 figures.
We got it. Get going, Clint.
Let's go.
Well, we're going to talk about some words that will help you to stand out and above your competition, because unfortunately, and I hope this isn't going to make you conspicuous about what you're doing or feel insecure about your own talking, but there's 7 words that people are saying that are really negatively impacting their speaking. And the first one is so. So is a connector. People don't want to lose your attention, and what they do is they keep saying so. A lot of times it's and so. I was listening. You ever listen to the Moth podcast?
No.
It's a storytelling podcast, and it's very, very famous. There's a lot of people who listen to the Moth podcast, and I heard this one girl tell her story about her grandmother, and so then grandma did this, and so grandmother did that.
Distracting.
9 times she said and so in a 7-minute segment. And be careful about this word so. It is a virus of speaking in today's English language, especially in America. The second word you should never say is
unless, of course, someone says something awkward and then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You're a funny guy.
He's so hilarious.
That's when I pull out the
You are a very funny guy. You got to be careful that you're not trying to fill every single moment of every single day, of every single interaction with a person. It's okay to have some silence and not fill it with the word The next word is like. It comes from the Valley Girl movie. Like, you know, like, I really like this, but, like, I want an iPad, but, like, I really don't want the big iPad. Like, I really want the small iPad, okay? Now, what is that doing? That's people's reluctance to actually make any kind of commitment at all when they're talking. They qualify everything with the word like, and that relieves them from any kind of responsibility for what they're talking about. And the fourth word you should never say is well, you know. It often starts off like, well, you know.
Right.
Doesn't set a good tone.
Well, you know. You ask a person a question, I'm sure you hear it on this show all the time. Well, you know, how'd you get involved in this? Why'd you write the book? Well, you know, this happened and that happened and that happened. Just start. Don't have to say well. You could just start talking. And that takes us through 4, 5, and 6. Well, you know. And then the last one is absolutely. Absolutely is another virus, especially on TV.
I have that one.
That's mine. It's a really
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tough word, and the real problem with absolutely is that it comes out of the service industry. Hey, could I get some extra mozzarella cheese here? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's a service attitude. That's
Great
a
customer service.
On the side.
It's a people, absolutely. It's a people-pleasing attitude, and unfortunately, people pleasers don't tend to get the big money, and all of this stuff is about being able to make more impact, have more influence, and more income. And unfortunately, the people who are waiting tables don't have the income that most people are aspiring to have in their own lives, and therefore, I suggest you avoid the absolutely virus.
I got to write that one down. I say absolutely way too much.
I probably say a lot of those words all the time. So now that we know what to look out for, how do we even get started with a 4-figure speaking success career?
How about with someone will pay me $1 to speak?
Oh, wow. No. You're worth more than that, David.
Those are good questions, and I approach this whole thing in a very different manner. One of my mentors is a member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame and a founding member of the NSA. His name is Joel Weldon. Love him to death. Super great guy. I was talking to him last night. He's the one who alerted me. I was doing an interview with him, and I said, I make 7 figures a year by paying to speak. I usually will buy a speaking slot in front of a good audience.
Paying to speak.
Yes, because what you do is not as important as who. Who is the most important word in business?
Who you're speaking to.
Who are you talking to? Who has the money to pay you? And if I can find an audience that has the money to pay me, I'm happy to pay some ducats to get in front of that audience. I usually pay to get on stages so that I can speak to a good audience. And that's been my special methodology for becoming a 7-figure speaker. And I said, Joel, I'm probably in the top 5% of the National Speakers Association money earners. And he goes, oh no, if you're earning 7 figures a year, you're in the top 1%. And a lot of people don't have the guts or the pockets to be able to buy speaking slots, but if you do, I find that that's a really good way. And it's the easiest way to get in front of audiences.
Right. That sounds like a reverse strategy because so many people are looking to be paid for speaking engagements, and you're going in and paying to have the opportunity to talk to people.
I host a number of conferences where people can come and get a speaking slot at my conference where we provide them with a video and photos and even some celebrity attachment opportunities. Like I have one coming up at the Harvard Club in Boston with Suzanne Summers. And
I was a member there for 10 years. Great place.
It's a beautiful place.